Hey YouTube, I thought I'd introduce myself to the record collecting community, the vinyl community, on what may be just a one-off video just to share some of my record collection. I have about 850 LPs and a handful of 7-inch singles. I don't really collect 7-inch singles unless there's nothing else available from a band. But yeah, I just thought I'd pick out some of my most desirable, rare, favourite records from my collection, um, and show them to you. Stuff that's not been shown on YouTube yet. Maybe some of them I should expect. So yeah, here we go. I've taken all the plastic sleeves off them to stop any glare or reflection of the light. So here we go. We'll start with some Delta Blues. That was recorded in 1957, I think, and this is a 1966 issue on Music for Pleasure. It's Josh White, Good Morning Blues. Picked this up yesterday. It's good stuff. There's some really nice guitar playing on here, acoustic guitar playing. I'd never heard of him before, and I like the Delta Blues. I like all those artists like Robert Johnson and Booker White. And there's even some familiar names on here from the blues and Delta Blues, like Ledbetter, Johnson. There's a lot of original Josh White tracks on side B. So yeah, this one I haven't listened to all of yet, but I will do. So yeah, Josh White, Good Morning Blues. One of my all-time favourites, a reissue, unofficial reissue on Phoenix Records. Flower Travelling Band, Satori, originally released in 1971. It's a psychedelic proto-metal or progressive rock masterpiece. Amazing album, very exotic in places, very spaced out in places. It's got a very cool gatefold. But yeah, that one's definitely one of my all-time favourites. And so is this one. This one I got into when I first started, shortly after I first started collecting records, or around the same time when I was a lot younger. It's UFO by Guru Guru, originally released in 1970 on the German label Or. This is a Wah Wah reissue. This definitely was one of the heaviest albums in the world at the time, along with albums by Black Sabbath and Amandal 2, being referring to Black Sabbath's debut album and Amandal 2's double album from 1970, Yeti. Those three records, Black Sabbath, UFO, and Yeti, are rated as the three heaviest albums in the world as of 1970. And a Captain Beefheart and his Magic Band bootleg. I'm not sure, it's probably not official, but it's called Magneticism, and it's live in the UK and USA from 72 to 1981. There we go. It's got some classic Beefheart tracks on it. It's limited to 1,000 copies. It's got performances of Click Clack, Darley's Car, Dropout Boogie, Candy Corn, Abba Zaba Electricity, Golden Birdies, Veterans Day Poppy, all the stuff from Troutmouse Replica. Classic avant-garde rock from festivals in the UK and the USA. This is an unusual one. Not entirely sure what it is, but it's German and it's from a radio station. Uh, Flohmarkt SWF3. I bought this because there's an exclusive track on here by Guru and Kran. Not just Guru on their own or Kran on their own, krautrock bands, both of them, but a collaboration between Guru and Kran. It's track 2 on here. It's only 5 minutes in length, and there is some uploads of it on YouTube. But it's a really good track. I bought the record specifically just to get that track. This is one of my favourites. Another one of my favourites. But this is a reissue on another Wah reissue. It was originally released on Vertigo in 1972, I think. It's Peter Michael Hamel. One of his solo albums. I think maybe his first solo album. But the sleeve is really amazing. This album is classically trained, like minimal electronic music, and some of it does sound like a bit like Stockhausen or the like, but a lot more melodic than Stockhausen. A lot more melodic. Amazing gatefold, and they even have the Vertigo Swirl centers on them, even on the reissue. It gets quite drony and psychedelic at times, but it's meant to be the best Peter Michael Hamel solo album. I haven't heard them all yet. Now this one is pretty heavy. All I can describe it as is LSD metal. Very deranged sounding LSD metal. It's by a band called Doom. This is also pretty limited. I'm not sure how many copies. This is originally recorded about 1993. This is a reissue from about 10 years ago. It came with, this is one of the deluxe editions or Die Hard editions. It's got a poster, it's got a leaflet in it, things like that. But yeah, it's very strange stuff. Not for the well, maybe not for beginners, that one. This is my best copy of Ohm by John Coltrane on Impulse. It's in really good condition for its age. Nice gatefold that I cleaned up a little, and it's come out really well. Classic free jazz, the most far out free jazz recording as of 1967, an experiment, supposedly when the band were on LSD. But that might be a myth, I don't know. I've read plenty about it over the years, but I've never really decided on it, whether it was true or not. Another one related to John Coltrane, Pharoah Sanders, Themby, one of my favourite records of all time. Originally released in 1971 or 1971, I think, but this pressing might be from 1972. Really exotic, avant-garde jazz. Some of it a lot more melodic than more on the avant-garde side. But this is a good morning record. Amazing record. Easily one of my favourites. Oh yeah, another. These aren't in any order, by the way. Just random order. One of my favourite John Coltrane recordings, Interstellar Space. This is just Rashid Ali on drums and John Coltrane on tenor saxophone. 4 duet tracks. Originally released in 1974. but recorded in 1967, early 1967. And Coltrane was really going for it. This is quadraphonic compatible, this record, so it can be played in stereo or QS quadraphonic if you have the encoder to process the information. Another one of my all-time favourites, more jazz. I call this one space jazz, and I haven't got space jazz. It's Mondishi by Herbie Hancock, part of the Mondishi trilogy. This is the first one from 1971 on Warner Brothers. Herbie Hancock, one of my favourite musicians of all time. Legend. John Coltrane's wife, Alice Coltrane, possibly her finest record. Debatable. A lot of them are really good. Journey in Satchidananda, featuring Pharoah Sanders. This is a 1997 180 gram reissue. One of my favourite records of all time as well. Very melodic, very exotic, very entertaining to chill out to. It's had Charlie Hayden on bass. I don't know who else is on it. Rashid Ali, I think. Gatefold. Bit of glare there. Let's just get a decent shot of it. Some photos of the people who played on the sessions. This one's a French pressing of Terry Riley's Persian Surgery Dervishes. On this is on Shanti. This one's quite desirable. Minimal electronic music, played on an organ. Recorded live in '72, I think. No, the first performance was in Los Angeles in 1971, and the second performance was Paris, 1972. The gatefold, a photo with Terry with his instrument and the reel-to-reel recording the performances, and some liner notes in French. Very cool record. And last but not least, quite an obscurity. You don't see it around very often. An artist I'd never heard of initially. Carter Jefferson, The Rise of Atlantis. This is quite straightforward jazz, but it does have some avant-garde touches to it. It's quite a, like I said, it's quite a rare one. I bought it without even hearing it, and it turned out to be pretty good. Recorded in the late 70s, I believe. 1979 it was released on Timeless Records. Timeless Muse, TI 30309. But yeah, this one's quite an unusual one to find. Carter Jefferson, The Rise of Atlantis. So that's all of them wanted to show, but I'll just show one last one because one of my favourite bands of all time. Just the sleeve to the 1974 reissue of Paranoid by Black Sabbath and WWA Records, which I think sounds better than the original Vertigo Swirl pressing. It's a WWA Deluxe pressing. Played it earlier and it does sound really, really good. But yeah, there we go. Okay, that's it.